Hi, today we're going to show you how to freeze frame. That's how to get the best anti-wrinkle and anti-bag effect that happens in about 5 minutes by the application that you use with freeze frame. We've got Annie here today. Annie's going to be our model. We'll be applying it directly on her. So let's get started. So first, you take the freeze frame syringe and you have to turn it in a counterclockwise direction and then pump. It's important to remember that application is key with freeze frame, and if you don't follow the directions, you're not going to get the desired effect. So the first thing to remember is that the amount that you use is very, very important, and it's different for everyone. So some people only use the tiniest amount, some people use a little bit more. If you use too little, then you're not going to get the effect and you may get flaking. If you use too much, you also may get flaking. So it's really important to play around with it yourself at home and see what works best for you. Now, I personally like to use my hand as a palette because it really helps me control the amount that I use. I find some people also use a makeup brush, a concealer brush, and they just take a small amount and apply it into the lines. But that's not how we're going to be doing it today. We're going to be using a controlled amount and apply it to Annie's eye here. Now, Annie's just washed her face, so she's got clean, dry skin, which is perfect for application of freeze frame, and it's very important to remember. The next important thing to remember is that freeze frame needs to be applied in one direction. So when we apply freeze frame, we don't rub it back and forth, we don't dab it on. It's not like a normal skin cream, okay? So you're not using it like a moisturizer. What we're doing is trying to leave a film over the skin. Now, as I mentioned before, it all depends on the person as to how much product we use, but with Annie we know the right amount. So we're starting at the inner corner of the eye and we're moving the freeze frame in one direction only, following the line of the wrinkles, right? That one direction only is so very, very important. You can go over it, but you never run back and forth. You always apply in one single direction in the line of the wrinkles. I mentioned before that some people use a concealer brush to just get into the wrinkles, and they would also be using it in one direction following the line of the wrinkles. So that's the perfect amount for Annie. We've used it on her before, so she knows exactly the right amount to use. So the next important thing is to make sure that you don't move while it's drying. That's very, very important. It's called freeze frame. You've got to freeze. So drying time can take anywhere between 90 seconds and a few minutes, even up to 5 minutes, depending on how much you apply. And again, that depends on what the right amount is for you. So I repeat, please trial it at home and test. If the first time it doesn't work, try a little bit more. If you've put too much, try a little bit less. It's all a bit trial and error, but it's worth it once you get the result, as you're about to see with Annie. Okay, so with Annie, we're also going to apply some just on her forehead lines, because we know that it works really well on Annie's forehead. Really important to note that freeze frame was developed to be used around the eyes, okay? It is a product to help with wrinkles and bags around the eyes, okay? So what we found is that about 60% of people can also use it on the forehead, which is really exciting that you can use it around the eyes and on the forehead. But it's not made for other parts of the face. It's not for lip lines, it's not for nasolabial folds. It's just for around the eyes, and on about 60% of people are on the forehead as well. Now, the reason not everyone can use it on the forehead is because it really depends on how oily your skin is. Freeze frame doesn't interact very well with oils. So if you've got dry skin, we find those types of people can use it very, very well on the forehead. But if they have very, very oily or porous skin, then it can't be used on the forehead. And it's also really important to note that it shouldn't be used below the orbital bone, because the skin around here is very porous, and freeze frame won't work on those areas, and it can actually get a little bit messy, so be careful not to use it in those areas. Now I have a really hot tip for freeze frame, something not too many people know about it, but you can actually get a little eye lift by using freeze frame in the right way. This is really exciting for a lot of people. So we find if you just lift up the eye a little bit and apply freeze frame just onto the brow bone and hold it while it dries. I'm going to ask Annie to pull her hand up here, hold it not too tight, just a little bit while it dries, we're going to get an eye lift there as well. Now, one of the questions that we get asked the most is, can I use it with makeup and can I use it with moisturizer? So we'll take them one at a time. Makeup over the top. Yes, you should be able to use it with makeup over the top. Okay, now it's best to use an oil-free makeup, because as I mentioned before, it doesn't interact well with oils. We find the best results are achieved with a mineral makeup. And of course, mineral makeup allows your skin to breathe, and it's the best thing for your skin as well. So that's what we would recommend. But you can also use an oil-free foundation. And if you're not particularly oily skinned yourself, some people can get away with just a normal foundation over the top. It's important, again, do not rub back and forth even once freeze frame is dried. If you're going to use a foundation over the top, you dab it on. Okay, that's why we find powders work best, because a little brush of powder over the top is not going to interrupt with the effect. Okay, but it is important not to rub and not to be too rough with the area when you're applying makeup. Now, in terms of moisturizers, again, it depends on the person, and different people with different skin types can get away with different things. What the scientific community thinks is the reason for that different people have different effects with freeze frame is because the pH balance in everyone's skin is a little bit different. So some people, if they've got particularly dry skin, can actually use a moisturizer under freeze frame. Now, we have some customers who report using an eye cream, for example, and what they'll do is they'll use a serum or some sort of concentrate around their eyes to get their active ingredients in, and they will put it on and let it sink in for about 10 minutes. Then they'll wash it off and put freeze frame. So they've got already all that moisture in there, and then they'll lock it in with the freeze frame. So that's a good way to use it. Some people can actually get away with leaving it on, but it's important to test it and see what works for you. Best if it's an oil-free moisturizer, and then you put it on and you leave it on for 10 minutes, allow it to soak in so there's no excess greasiness on the skin, and then use freeze frame over the top. Some people can't use either of those ways and just need to apply it on clean dry skin. So please just try it. If one doesn't work for you, try the other way. If that doesn't work, you know, try the other way. So that way you know what the best result is for you. To remove freeze frame, it's as simple as splashing your face with water. We don't recommend you use harsh soaps or detergents or makeup removers, because this can irritate the eye area. But you just splash your face, or if you're not near a tap, you just soak a cotton ball in water and gently remove freeze frame that way. It's as simple as that. Here's a quick summary to help you achieve the best results from freeze frame with inhibox. Firstly, remember that skin must be clean and dry. The amount that's used of freeze frame varies from person to person, but as a general rule, make sure you don't use too little or too much. Play around to see what works best for you. Apply to under eye wrinkles and crow's feet in one direction. Don't rub it back and forth or pat into the skin. It's not to be used like a normal skin cream. Follow the line of the wrinkle in one direction, leaving a wet film on the skin. Many people can also achieve great results on forehead wrinkles and frown lines. Again, apply in one direction, following the line of the wrinkle. Freeze frame with inhibox is not suitable for other areas of the face. It's developed specifically for around the eye area and on the forehead. Once you've applied freeze frame, freeze. Allow to dry without moving your face at all. Once it's completely dried, you can move your face as normal, but don't touch the area or make very dramatic movements. You can apply a powder mineral makeup or an oil-free makeup on the top. If you're using a liquid, pat on. Never rub back and forth. It might take a little bit of practice to get the freeze frame application technique perfect for you, but as you can see on Annie, the results are worth it. And remember, we're here to help. If you have any questions, please visit us at www.freeze-frame.com.